Welcome everyone to our free GAMSAT webinar 10 of the series. It's amazing that we've gotten to number 10. We started this series, I think this about the same time last year. And in that time, we've seen a lot of students get through their interviews and their exams and start their journey into medicine. And it's great to see a lot of you are starting again to get into the September GAMSAT, which is I think less than 2.5 months away. So if you do want to prepare some sort of study plan, or if you're thinking about sitting this exam, please feel free to contact me. Call, email. We're available 9 to 5, Monday to Friday here at the Institute of Medical Education to prepare a study plan for the upcoming exam. I know a few of you in this chat, in this video at the moment, have actually contacted me recently for formulating some sort of plan, which is great. Now is probably the perfect time to start studying. You've got about 10 weeks, I'd say, about 10, 11 weeks until the exam. So we can formulate some sort of plan, let's say week by week basis to get the ball rolling. So the medicine entry submissions are now past us. A lot of you are having end of semester holidays for university, and a lot of you who aren't studying are probably overseas right now, enjoying your holidays. But I know it's winter and it's the best time to study because you're at home and you're rugged up. But you can contact me as well if you want to discuss your past GAMSAT results, and let us know how you went with your applications, portfolios, and your CASPA. I know CASPA results, I think for May have been released, the quartile results. I think the June results will be released soon, or they have been released. We might confirm that later, but you will have received a quartile result, which is great. If you want to discuss your result soon, you can contact me and we can go through that together. Your standard registrations for September GAMSAT, they do close, I think it's the Tuesday, the 11th of July. So that's standard registration. Otherwise, you get charged a fee if you don't register by them. But please register as soon as you can, because a lot of the places to sit the exam will become exhausted, and you might have to sit somewhere that you're not familiar with. So please keep that in mind when booking for your September GAMSAT. So today's session is going to be a fun one, as have all the other ones been. We're going to look at section 1, imagery and comics, and section 3, chemical synthesis and stereoselectivity. So I made them a bit visually appealing so that you can, I guess, stay focused. It is a Friday, and get you ready for the weekend, I guess. A reminder that we are on social media. You can follow us. These webinars are recorded, and you will receive a link to access these webinars via the mailing page. So please do please do access these links when I do send them to you, if you do want to watch these back. Or you can find these videos on YouTube if you just search at IME Medical or Institute of Medical Education. You can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, where we post lots of bite-sized videos to help you prepare for the exam. Okay, cool. So today, as I said earlier, we're going to look at section 1, imagery and comics, and then move on to section 3, chemical synthesis and stereoselectivity. I mean, the first section is going to be pretty fun. It's going to be a Garfield comic. I know a lot of you who know me well know I love my Garfield comics. They're pretty cool, pretty neat if you want to prepare for your GAMSAT, because they're short, bite-sized comics that give you a lot of information and help you prepare. And then finally, we can address your questions that you may have for the GAMSAT interviews or anything of that nature. Cool. So we'll start off with section 1, imagery and comics. We've got here 2 comics. So we've got comic X and comic Y. So the comic strips for Garfield by Jim Davis. in 1984, a very long time ago, and it's insane how almost 40 years ago now, and they still hold true. So in your GAMSAT for section 1, you're generally, I think for September GAMSAT 2023, it's 62 questions, 100 minutes, which means you get about a minute and a half, a minute 40 per question. We've got 3 questions here. What I'll do is I'll start the poll. Give yourself about 4:30, so 4 minutes 30 to answer these 3 questions, and we'll see how you go. Thanks for joining, Jeremy. Don't worry about that. There is always technical issues when it comes to Zoom, so it's great that you're here. So I will start the poll, and you have, when you're ready, let me know, but you have 4.5 minutes to go. So I'll start my recorder. So for those watching at home, give yourself about 4.5 minutes, but I'll start your time now. So please just make sure when you have your answer, just put it into the poll. It is anonymous. I don't know who you are, what your answer is, sorry. So just know that we won't judge you based on your comment, based on your answer. So don't worry about that. So you got about 4 minutes 15 now. So you have 2.5 minutes. Less than 1 minute to go. Okay, great. So it looks like those in today's attendance have put their answers in, which is great. So for those playing along at home, you still have about 30 seconds. You can just pause the video and give yourself more time, or you could just keep going. So just because we say about 1.5 minutes, 1:40 per question for section 1, doesn't mean you have to stick to that. It just gives you a guide so that when you're sitting the GAMSAT, at least sometimes you don't want to spend too much time on certain questions, or else you'll run out of time. So it just gives you a guide. Sometimes you can finish GAMSAT questions in 10 seconds. Sometimes it takes you a bit longer, but it's a good thing that you just watch the clock. So before we dive in, I just want to get your thoughts on the comics. So can anyone in the chat, I might give you a chance to unmute. Let me know what your thoughts are about these two comics, Comic X and Comic Y, if you want to walk us through. Adnan or Jeremy, you got anything, or you'd like to give comments about the comics? I mean, they're pretty funny. I love my Garfield comics.
First, Sun is totally different. These both comics, I would say, one is totally different from the other.
Mm-hmm. So different, how so?
Like one maybe with the safety related, and one is with the food issue.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess they're both about air travel.
Yep.
And one is discussing the airline food, and the other one is obviously discussing the exiting of the plane, or I guess the safety, or if you want to put it that way. So they're both different, but they both share the same theme. It's about getting treated differently on a flight. So you can see it says here third class. So I think the humor is in there as well. So considering themselves third class is pretty hilarious, because generally it's, you got your first class, business class. These days they have premium economy, and then economy class, and you might have economy X or whatever, and different tiers of economy. But third class, now that's hilarious in itself. But they were talking about this 40 years ago. So you can see the first comic. So they both have 3 panels. The first comic says, so you've got Garfield and his owner. And then you can see him saying, "Hey, we're getting hungry back here in third class. What's to eat?" And then you see them getting smacked in the face with hardtack and swill, to which Garfield is talking to himself, "Yum, yum." So hardtack is just like it's very cheap biscuits. And swill is, I think, liquid animal food. And then you've got in this comic, you've got them exiting the plane, and you've got Garfield's owner saying, "I know this is just the third class exit from the plane, Garfield, but you'd think they'd give us a ladder or something." Again, which is hilarious. So it's just poking fun at the fact that they're getting treated like animals, if you will, or just getting treated like not humans, inhumane, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So the first question, it says, the main source of humor in each comic from left to right is in. So it's great to see those in attendance. You both have differing answers. So would you like to explain to me why you picked your answer? So anybody, the floor is open.
Okay, I think I'll.
Oh, no, sorry.
Sorry.
We'll go Jeremy first, then Adnan, if that's okay.
All right. I'm sorry. I hope it's not too noisy in the background.
No, you're fine.
All right. Well, if you can hear me fine, I'll go ahead. So
Yep.
I feel like the second panel is on the first comment. The comment. From left to right. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I think I might have made a mistake here. I thought I was just looking at the first, like, Comic X for this particular question. So I would have said panel 2 for the first one and panel 3 for the last one. Because for me it was more like, it's you don't expect to be thrown, like food, whatever that is, thrown at your face. So that was like an unexpected,
Yeah.
that black, like the hard stack, what is it? Hard stack and swirl, yum yum. Like that's kind of like a cherry on the top, but for me, I don't know, getting slapped in the face, the pie in the face. That's kind of the
Yeah.
most classic, like quintessential form of comedy.
Mm.
And then again, that you don't know that there's anything different until you get to the last panel on comic Y.
Mm.
And again, that's you're like I don't know, it's kind of, you never expect to be,
Treated like third class.
yeah, it's like it's like an exaggeration. You're never going to be out of, you just go, how third class is not, it's not jumping out of a plane. But that's, I don't know. For me, that's why I was very close to saying it's surreal. But I thought it was more of a sarcastic humor.
Great. Thanks for your thoughts there. We'll just get Adnan's thoughts before we go through the answer for that one. What did you think, Adnan?
I think I've choose. I think first of all, like the first question is like, we have to give like separate answer, like Hassan, in comics and
Yep. Sorry.
So I just like choose, I think number one, in which he's saying, hey, we are getting hungry back there in the third class, what's to eat? I think that's more humor, I felt like.
What about in comic Y? So you think, so the question's asking in each comic. So you're saying the humor's here and the humor's here?
In Comic X, I think I choose panel one. And so, but in the question, there's only one. Yes.
Yes, because it says the main source of humor in each comic is in which panel. So this is how GAMSAT gets you, the way they word the question. So if you're saying, this is the funny part, what about for comic Y? Where's the funny strip?
Comic Y, I would say like third one.
The third one, yep. So you're seeing that the comedy is in different panels, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. So you both, it's funny because both of you got the same realization straight away. And the GAMSAT does that to you. You realize straight away, like, damn, I realized what they meant. But you both got the answer. You just had to lock it in. So collectively, what do you think the answer is? A, B, C, or D?
Then D, yeah.
D? Yep. So
D.
the answer is D. So look, it is very subjective on what you find funny and what isn't funny, and where you find the humor. The reason why I worded it this way is because if I said which is the exact panel where the humor is, it is subjective. But you can tell that the humor is in different panels because in this comic, you could argue it's either 1, 2, or 3. In my opinion, the main humor comes from this panel, mainly because this, let's look at it this way. Which is the one that makes you laugh the most? Which is the one that you're just like, ha, ha, ha. So this is like an introduction. It's like, hey, we're getting hungry, back in third class, what's to eat? Whack, they get smacked in the face with the hardtack and swill, which is the biscuits and the swill. And then this is again, like as Jeremy was saying, the cherry on top. So I feel as though it's here. You could argue it's here or here, depending on your, or even here, depending on how you perceive comedy. But the idea is that compared to this panel, you can see clearly there is no comedy here. It's just, I think his name is John. I can't remember, sorry, the Garfield's owner's name. You can see he's just leaving the aircraft. There's no comedy here. Over here, it says third class. There may be some humor here to make you laugh, but the main source of humor definitely is here, where you just look out and you say, hey, there's no ladders. What's going on here? So it's kind of like the way I look at it to answer this question, which panel would you remove and it'd make no difference to the comedy? So you can remove this, it'd still be funny. You could remove this, it still be funny, but you need this for it to be funny. Whereas over here, you could remove this, it still be funny. But if you remove this, then it just doesn't make, or actually, if you remove either of these two, this doesn't make sense. So these are the two main sources of comedy. I'd say this is probably the main source. But you both got the correct answer after get it again. Yes, Jeremy?
Sorry, Hassan. I came up with an idea that I could, might be interesting. So I like to, work on my vocabulary. And so for me, I feel like I could say that when you look at comic X, to me, the third panel conveys like a deadpan dry humor, if we can be objective with it. And then comic X still on panel 2 is more like from using panels 1 and 2. That's like this ridicule or it could be mordant or sarcastic or mordant. I think there's mordant and ridiculing, I feel like you could distinguish I think you can distinguish two different forms of humor. Even Schadenfreude. Like it's funny because someone is hurt and
taking delight in someone's misery.
So that could be the humor in the second panel. But in the third is that there's definitely a dry, there's no smile on the face. And then in some way, then you can add a third, which is definitely the surreal, with the cat actually, I mean,
this is the thing with Garfield, though. I wouldn't consider it surreal because you see clearly that, let's just call him John. I can't remember his name. I might just get his name quickly, 1 second, because it's killing me now. I have to get his name. Garfield's owner's name. John. It is John. So John has a speech bubble, whereas Garfield always has a thought bubble. So that's the subtletiness where it kind of removes that surrealness, because technically speaking, Garfield isn't talking to John. Garfield is thinking to himself. If you look at a lot of Garfield's comics, it's the same thing. It's him thinking to himself rather than talking. So if we do move on to question 2, I guess it kind of segues into question 2, where it says, which of the following best describes a type of humor employed by both comics? Do you still stand, because I think we've got answers here where both answers are sarcastic. Do you still stand, I guess, Adnan and Jeremy with sarcasm, or do you want to change your answer? Maybe Adnan. How about you, Adnan? How do you feel with this answer?
I just randomly choose Hassan, this one. I'm not sure.
That's fine. So I think with this one, it is important, as Jeremy was saying as well, the vocabulary. Do you know what surreal humor is?
Not really sure, no.
Do you know what dry humor is?
No, I don't know. I'm not familiar with these words.
Okay, cool. So Jeremy, do you know what surreal humor is? Do you know what the definition of surreal humor is?
I like to link it to what I know best, more about, which is more like the art, surrealism in art, which is like, it's not realistic and natural. Like it's, so animals talking is an easy example, because, we don't have conversations with animals. So in a comic, if there's some sort of animal talking, it's it's likely to be surreal, because it's like, this is not it's nothing, it's
not
in a fictional
like
world.
For example, if Garfield was holding a phone, that would be surreal.
um, somehow I always think about absurd as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's tricky when you get into semantics, though.
I think surreal. Whenever I think of surreal comedy, the best way to remember it is think of a caveman on the phone.
Yeah.
So that if you always remember that as serial comedy, it's something that just does not make sense in the sense that it's obviously not normal, not within our realm, pretty much. So that's the best way to think about it. Well, dry humor, you hit the nail on the head with dry humor before. Dry humor is just like observational comedy. It's just something that there's emotional neutrality when it happens. So it's kind of, I wrote down the actual definition here. Dry humor is the deliberate display of emotional neutrality or no emotion to contrast with the ridiculousness or absurdity of the subject matter. So you can see here, you can see here that they're getting smacked in the face of pretty much, this is just dumb scum, pretty much. And they just look like, Garfield's got some emotion here, but they just look like they're unfazed. And over here, you can see his face. Look at John's face, look at Garfield. They just look very unfazed, still unfazed. You could argue that it is observational. So the best example of observational dry humor that I use in real world is something like Seinfeld. The TV series Seinfeld. They employ a lot of observational dry humor, a lot. Which is why some people find Seinfeld incredibly funny and others just loathe it. They hate it. So that's one example of dry. So dry seems correct. Let's see. Well, is dark an option? So dark humor.
I don't
No.
think dark is an option. But going back over the definition, I think I would have to have changed my answer to B.
Yep. So why do you
Yep.
think it's not sarcastic then?
So
what is the definition of sarcasm?
Well, sarcasm, I remember you strongly, reinforcing the word contempt. So, trying to like,
So what is, yep, it's what, sorry?
You're mocking something, but you've got contempt for something. So you think something's worthless or like, you don't think very highly of it.
Yep. So what about these comics? So is there irony in these comics? Are these comics ironic?
Ironic.
Well, look, Third Class, is that not ironic? It's just making fun of the concept of class system in planes. But would you say it's sarcastic? Remember, sarcasm is irony with contempt conveyed.
Irony with contempt, yeah.
That's what sarcasm is. If I said this was irony, tick. Sarcasm, X. There is no sarcasm because there is no contempt. So sarcastic remarks are pretty much like snide remarks. So it's ironic, but you're taking a jab at someone. So that's what sarcasm is. So if you ever see irony in a very distasteful way, it's sarcasm, pretty much. That's the way I remember it. And it can't be dark humor because it's very lighthearted. I can't see anything. If anything, you're laughing throughout this. It's not like it's talking about death or people dying or talking about something else. So it's just funny. Dry is the answer. So with these, what I always say, please, when you're preparing for section 1, have some sort of glossary, some kind of vocabulary table. Write all these words down, definitions, examples, so that when a GAMSAT question comes along, you don't get it wrong. When I drop a random, what's the difference? So which one of these displays irony? Which one of these displays an asymptote or whatever it is, or anything like that, or which one of these displays assonance, or not asymptote, that's math, or alliteration. So the idea is that the reason why I'm very pedantic and anal about this is because in section 1 you only have 62 questions, not 100 like section 3. And whenever the scores come out for GAMSAT, 1 or 2 marks in the GAMSAT is a difference between you getting a 60 score and a 65 score in section 1, or you getting a 65 and you getting a 75. It's the difference is really only like 4 or 5 points. If you're getting these 1%ers correct, you're pushing yourself from a 60 GAMSAT score to a 70. So that's why it's very important that you do these 1%ers, because these are the 1%ers that are going to push you to score well. So keep that in mind. Now, for the last one, process of elimination here. So what can you guys tell me about this one? Because you both answered similarly here. So Adnan, why did you choose your answer that you chose? So you went with which one? Did you go with A?
A, yes.
So why did you go with A?
Like, because in the comic file, it's nothing related with the like human needs, like don't have safety, and they don't care about safety, and they just want to increase their revenue. So that's why I choose this one.
So you do agree it is funny though?
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So because there's humorous,
yeah,
and serious. So you agree it's funny, but it is a serious take.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How about you, Jeremy? What's your thoughts on this one?
Yep, I thought it was humorous. And for this one, it was mostly process of elimination. With a bit of a gut feeling, I definitely feel like it's having a dig at the, how much airlines can get away with, not giving to third class. And, like I've used to, a couple of times I was asked to go, and I was offered the exit row, because I was a bit taller than maybe the rest. And
yep.
And now you have to pay an extra $10 just to sit in the exit row because of that extra leg room. So, yeah.
Yes, I know. Now they're charging you for all the luxuries. No one wants to sit there anymore. Now everyone wants it.
Yeah. So, I think in the airlines, it's just part of like a industry and consumerism. And
they're out to make money, I guess.
Yeah.
So with this type of question, we can all agree it is funny. So we can always straight away process elimination. So you can always narrow it down to at least 50-50 chance. It says A, B, so we've got humorous here. So it's going to be A or B. The ending of each comic does not relate logically to the rest, which heightens the humor of the narratives. This does relate to the rest. This does relate to the rest. So C is wrong. D says there is a clear disconnect between the airline industry and its customers. No, mainly because there isn't a clear disconnect, because they've willingly, so you can see in the first panel, John has willingly purchased a first class seat. So he knows what to expect. So they know what they're expecting here. So there isn't a disconnect between the airline industry and customers, because the customers are paying for their seats. If they don't want to sit in third class, they wouldn't pay for the third class and it wouldn't exist. So that's something to keep in mind. Now it's either A or B. Is it a serious take or is it a funny take? It comes down to context here. And this is why context in section 1 is very important. Garfield comics are meant to be dry observational humor on current events and topics, but they were never meant to be serious. They were always meant to be funny in a way that it just pokes fun at the way humans just put up with all the crap that we put up with, and just talking about how it could be 1,000 years ago. You know what's interesting? I've read I've read passages from, I think the ancient Roman times, where, because the Roman Empire spanned from England all the way to the Middle East, North Africa, and you'd have I think English soldiers being posted, Roman soldiers, so Italian, current day Italian, so let's say Roman soldiers being posted in England, writing passages, this is like in the year 100 AD, complaining about the English weather. So it's kind of funny how 2000 years later, and we're still complaining about the English weather. So it's the same principle here. It's just talking about human experience and how you can go thousands of years and we have the same experience. The answer would be B, based only because of context. Garfield is not meant to be serious. Garfield's supposed to be funny, and it's meant to make light of the situation. Now, this is where it comes into play for section 1. If you want to do well in section 1, you have to know context. So you have to understand the context that a lot of these were developed. If it was serious, it wouldn't be a cartoon, in my opinion, which is why you see a lot of comics these days in newspapers. You don't see much serious things in comics. Look at today's world. Most serious things aren't in digital comic form. You see lots of artistic drawings in newspapers. You can say the media, for example, South Park or whatever. Are they serious? Do they have a point? Yes, but are they serious? No. Unless this was created, it didn't look funny. Let's say it was created by the UN and it had very serious photos, images, it would be serious, but this is funny. Nothing here points to it being a serious take. A lot of the way that the photos are drawn are funny. It invokes a funny, it's supposed to be something that makes you laugh. So B would be the correct answer based on process of elimination, because nothing here suggests that it's serious. And also because of the context based on Garfield. Do you guys have comments before we move on to the next topic for section 3? Anything final words on, you did very well, actually. You actually did all very well. You did pretty well here. So I would say you got most of them correct, probably all of them correct, actually. It's just the last one, again, GAMSAT section 1, 50-50, it gets to you. So do you have any comments?
Yeah, no. Oh, sorry, Adang.
Oh, sorry, no, Adnan,
Sorry.
Adnan first.
Okay, no problem. Sasan, the third answer which you explained, like, I just want to know more, like, is it because of the Garfield comics, that's why you choose, because it's only mostly humorous?
Well, there's multiple reasons. One, yes, it is Garfield comics, but also two, whenever you're reading GAMSAT questions, take note of what they're saying. Serious take. When I say serious take, there has to be evidence here that it's serious. Can you tell me what evidence here is suggesting it's serious in the actual comics themselves, comics?
Yeah, there's nothing serious because he didn't jump from the plane. I think that makes it serious, but like with the picture, like, I don't think so. It's a serious thing. Yeah.
Because the pictures, they're just comics. There's nothing there that suggests it's serious. If it was serious, I would think it'd have like a UN logo. They were drawn like actual humans, and it'd have like facts and telling you 1,500,000 people die every year from plane crash or blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? That would be serious.
Okay.
This is nothing there suggests that.
Yeah, I got it now. Thank you.
Jeremy?
Yeah, no, that's a good point to distinguish between the dark humor and then serious seriousness, but like with serious humor is more like satire rather than, I guess, isn't it?
Satires, I mean,
more
well, if you
poetic.
think about it, Scary Movies is satire, and that you can definitely say that's not, because satire is more burlesque. Burlesque humor is satire, because burlesque is you're mocking something.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
yeah.
it's more, I know a lot of people are like, what burlesque humor is satire.
Yeah.
What? So yes, I'd say burlesque humor, satire is similar. And the best way I think about it, if you're thinking of satire, look at Scary Movies. You know, the ones with, I'm sure you've seen Scary Movies, the ones from the 2000s. Those, if you don't know what that is, watch it. Where how they make fun of Scream and all those other scary movies and the alien movies and stuff.
No, my main takeaway though was to, you know, not skip any bit of information, you know, because I think I jumped right to like, you know, what was it? I just I went sacrificing, oh, like airline industry sacrificing, and then I read revenue or increased revenue, and I was like, okay, that's, you know, that makes sense. And you know, when we've reread the answer and considered these other bits of information, it's taught me that, look, you know, have you gone through and, you know, what is it, you know, can you cross off the first bits of information first before you go to the next? But serious as well, yeah, I never thought about that. It's like, is it serious? So you're saying that all comics like typically they're not going to be serious?
It's context, because if they're comics produced by an authority, then it might be serious. Again, it comes down to authority. Who's produced the comics? Jim Davis is just a guy who just draws comics. I mean, 40 years ago, he still does comics to this day. Is he is he the UN? Is he the United States of America? Is he the Australian government? No. You know, if it was something about, again, you can't just assume all comics are funny and they're not serious, but the way it's drawn as well, nothing suggests here in the drawings that it's serious.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I got to look at every bit of information on the next question.
No, that's a good observation, or a good reflection. It comes with practice, obviously. The more practice you have, the faster you are at scanning questions and extracting the most important. Because with GAMSAT questions, there's always in the question, read it carefully, because there's always a trick in the question, and there's always in the options, there's always a suggestion that makes it obvious which is the answer. Because if you're going to use very strong words like serious take, you have to prove it's serious. Otherwise, it's going to be wrong. So generally in the questions, when with practice, it gets to the point where you can actually feel like, act as if you're the GAMSAT question maker, and think, how would I write this question to trick students, candidates, and how could I write this question in a way that it can't be true because it's a very bold statement and you need lots of evidence to prove it true. So that's the way I would think about. But again, it comes with practice, and you'll, with more practice, you'll get it. And doing questions like this is practice. So I can guarantee now, next time you see a question like this, you'll be more careful. So which is the whole point. So now moving on to section 3, chemical synthesis and stereoselectivity. We have here a reaction, the Storninger synthesis. It's a ketene imine cycloaddition, and it produces the two azitidinone derivatives, and they're important for beta-lactam antibiotics. So I think Hermann Storninger, he discovered this reaction in 1907. It wasn't until the 40s when it became popular, because that's when they figured out what the structure of penicillin looked like. So it took about 40 years for them to actually realize this is actually a very important pathway for antibiotic synthesis. But Storninger himself actually won a Nobel Prize in chemistry in the 50s for something completely different, because I think he demonstrated the existence of macromolecules, specifically polymers. So this was a very smart bloke. But this is a very important reaction for beta-lactam antibiotics. And it's telling you that the reaction yields cis and trans products. So what I'll do is in schematic 1, I think I've got it here. So there are two questions. In section 2 of the GAMSAT, section 3, sorry, you get 2 minutes per question because there's 150 minutes for 75 questions. So you'll get about 4 minutes to answer these two. There's the schematic, and there's also 4 rules as to why it's difficult to predict the stereochemistry of the Schrodinger synthesis. So what I'll do is I'll give you 4 minutes. I'll just start the poll in a second, but I'll give you 4 minutes, and if you're both finished, we can stop early and we can go explore it. But your 4 minutes starts now. Okay, so we have 2 more minutes. Okay, great. So you have all put your answers in. What we can do is, for those playing along at home, you still have 1.5 minutes. I'll just end the poll there. Great. It's always nice to see that you will have similar answers as well. We'll go through them and see how you went. But before we do that, just quickly, this reaction, you can see clearly that you're reacting a ketone with an imine, and you're forming an intermediate which has the choice of either going down the pathway to form a cis beta-lactam or a trans beta-lactam. Now, what we're told here is that the stereochemistry of the synthesis is difficult to predict. So it's actually difficult to predict whether it's going to be cis or trans because of multiple rate limiting steps. So we have 1, competition of direct ring closure. I'll get my pen out. So the first one is telling you that there is, so sorry, where'd the pen go? Come on, pen. So because of the competition between isomerization and direct ring closure, it's hard to determine the cis and trans. It's also difficult because the electron withdrawing or donating effect of the substituents. So whatever the electron donating or withdrawing effects, so electron donating or electron withdrawing effects. You also have the regiochemistry, so that is the E-imine from cis, so E. So if we go this side, so an E-imine forms cis, whereas a Z-imine forms trans. And then finally, substituent effect on the speed of progress towards a transition state. So the slow reaction equals isomerization, which equals trans. So we've got these four, I guess, rules as to why it's difficult to predict whether you're going to have cis or trans. Now, the first question says, according to the suggested model in schematic 1, the kinetic derivation of the relative cis and trans selectivity can be achieved by. So I'll just open the floor, starting with Adnan. Can you explain to me why? So just to start off, you both went with A and A. So Adnan, can you explain to me why you went with A?
Because in the question it says can go like K1, K2, like as you said, cis or trans. So
Yep, so we've got K1,
that's
K2.
yeah. So that's why I choose this one, because
Okay, cool. That's all you need. And that's great. How about you? I'll let you know what the answer is in a second. I'll just get Jeremy's thoughts before we tell you the answer. Because I mean, you both have the same answer. I want to hear your thought process on this as well, Jeremy.
Yeah, I just thought a similar thought that that's the crossroad, or that's the key moment where you could go either way.
Mm.
And so I thought maybe those two are what we should compare. Again, I kind of eliminated the last two answers because I thought maybe like divided by Ka, I have no idea what that would do.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't believe that if I did K3, it would, you know, it's assuming that we're already at intermediate 2. It's not considering the information prior to that. So, but I felt overwhelmed with the whole going back to rates of chemical reactions. I was trying to, remember if there's any laws or anything to. I don't know. I've got worried about now my knowledge around the rates and chemical reactions.
The good thing is you don't have to know. To be honest, you could have done this question without any background in chemistry, and still been able to answer it, because of the good thing is you're both correct. So the answer is A. Your explanations are correct. Now it comes down to this: multiple rate limiting steps. It says here the kinetic derivation of the relative cis-trans selectivity. It says here, option 1 says explicitly, it's competition of direct ring closure and isomerization. And they're both controlled by K1 and K2. So you know straight away that the rate limiting step for determining because it's asking determining stereochemistry. So the question's asking the stereoselectivity. So the rate limiting step for the stereochemistry is the ring closure and the isomerization. So it's K1 and K2. K3 is not the rate limiting step to determine the stereoselectivity. K3 is just the closing of the ring. It doesn't determine the stereoselectivity. Isomerization and direct ring closure is what determines, because of the way that let's say what do they call these? The additional groups are prepositioned, the way that they're shaped in the structure. So K1 and K2, the reason why K3 isn't involved, because K3 is involved in the the closing of the ring. So it's indirect ring closure, so it's not involved in the actual stereoselectivity. The reason why Ka isn't, because Ka again is only involved in the forward and reverse reaction, or the forward reaction of ketone imine to the intermediate, and that doesn't determine the stereoselectivity. It's these two that do. So you know Ka is incorrect, so you can cross off these two. A lot of people would narrow it down to A or B, and a lot of people might confuse and say it has to be K3 because if you don't close the ring, you're not going to pick stereoselectivity. That's not the case because you're told explicitly. Again, when you're in a GAMSAT, try to highlight. I know it's on the computer, but try to, in your mind, highlight the key words in the question or in a stimulus or the STEM. Stereochemistry, multiple relating steps, ring closer, isomerization. So those are the correct, what your eye should be drawn to, and you both got it correctly, which is great. So it's A. Now for 2. So we're going to look, I might clear everything actually, erase everything. Okay, so we're going to look specifically at the cis and trans. So we'll look specifically at the rings. So Adnan, we'll open the floor review. It says, how many more stereocenters would a cis beta-lactam ring possess over a trans beta-lactam if an E-imine was reacted? So straight away we look over here. So remember, this is correct, and you both had this as your option. So Adnan, can you explain to me why you went with, because you both went with A, why you went with 0?
Because my understanding was with the arrow, it's only going one way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it will not go back or make another.
So do you know what a stereocenter is?
No, no, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay. So Jeremy, can you tell me what a stereocenter is?
Stereocenter is, I go to chirality. It's not the same thing, but I went there and went, oh, it has to attach to 4 different groups.
Yep. So it's an atom. So that's what a stereocenter is, an atom that attaches to 4 different groups, whereas a chirality is what?
Four different groups.
Oh, wait, sorry. Stereocenters join to 4 groups, whereas a chirality is to 4 different groups. Yes. So you could have a chiral carbon and you can have a chiral, I think, nitrogen actually. So it's not just carbon, but the reason why we focus on carbon is because carbon is the formation of life. So if you're going to see chirality, it generally means carbon forms. But please note that chirality, you might get a GAMSAT question where they're talking about chirality for nitrogen or something else. It's not just carbon. So it's a carbon. So a chiral center is a carbon with 4 different bonds. So you can see here, so how many, I mean, you could claim that this and this are chiral carbons because what do you call, so let's just, what do you call this carbon here? Does it have a stereocenter, this molecule? How many stereocenters does this molecule have?
Is it 2?
Yep, so you've got a stereocenter here and a stereocenter here. And this one as well, a stereocenter here and a stereocenter here. But those 2 stereocenters are chiral because you've got a carbon attached to 4 different groups. We've got R2, H, this molecule here, and this molecule here. So it's 4 different groups. Same here.
Yeah. If you go around one
to
way,
determine if it's S or if it's R.
but it's hard with the cyclic structures. It's like you got, because don't you include further down, you know, like you go around one way, you don't just go to nitrogen. Well, or is that all you need? Is that all you need?
Well, you're looking at the
carbon there.
You're looking at the bonds here. So the first one is a nitrogen group and this is a carbon group. So which one has priority? It's obviously the one that's highest on the periodic table. But I think priority here isn't important because the question's asking which one has more stereocenters. Now, it says here, so they're asking you for an E-imine. if we added an E imine here, E imine gives you cis beta lactam, right?
Yeah.
So cis beta lactam and trans beta lactam, do they both have the same amount of stereocenters?
Yes.
Yes, so they both have 2. So they both have 2 stereocenters. And the question is saying, if you were to incorporate E imine with a ketene as opposed to a Z imine, would you have more stereocenters? The answer is,
Well, I just went with, okay, if you look at number 3, you need an E imine. It forms a cis
mhm,
beta lactam. And so I'm like, okay, well, the question isn't asking anything different. It's just going, well, a cis beta lactam with an E imine is just what's normal. If you have an E imine,
mhm,
it goes to a cis beta lactam ring.
mhm.
So because so there's nothing different about that process. So there
Yes.
shouldn't be any different about the stereo centers.
Mm.
I just did it through that way rather than counting. Like I just thought, okay. Yeah.
No, that's correct. Well, this is the trick question, because it's just telling you that and also it says how many more. So some people might get confused and say there's 2, but
Yeah,
there
they
is
might not
2.
read more.
Yeah, more. There's 0 more. It's both 2. So it's 2, 2. So the answer is A. You're both correct. Different approaches. It doesn't matter how you approach, as long as you get correct. But I think it comes down to your knowledge. You didn't even have to have a background in chemistry to answer this. It's just pretty much looking and seeing that they show you that E, whether or not you have an E or a Z imine, you're going to have the same amount of stereocenters. You would have just seen here it's the same amount. The only difference is the R and S. Assuming what I mean by R and S, sorry, is the direction R or S. Assuming R1, 2, or 3 are similar when we comparing to each. Obviously, if you had R2 and R1, which were a hydrogen atom, it wouldn't be chiral. But assuming it is going to be a chiral center, there's a lot of assumptions to be made. GAMSAT and ASA might make it more clear, they might not. But just note that in this question, we're assuming R2 is different to hydrogen or different to any of these groups. So it's a new group. Do you know what the difference is between EZ and cis and trans?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is the difference between EZ and cis and trans?
I think it's like cis and trans is if it's different what do you call it? Substituents, whereas E and Z is if it's the same on each side, like what's attached to each of the carbons is the same except in a different position, whereas cis and trans, maybe I've got this the wrong way, but then cis and trans it's indicating the position of each group, but the groups are also different. Or is it the other way around?
You usually see as well, people say trans is synonymous with E and cis is synonymous with Z, which is not completely correct. But generally speaking, because Z is same side, cis is same side. So the molecules of highest priority are on the same side. So that's cis. And you could argue for Z as well. And trans is molecules of the highest priority on opposite sides, which is E. Now, the big difference is that I've written it down. E and Z system always works. E and Z works every single time. Cis and trans is a problem in ambiguous cases, because cis and trans is based on relative stereochemistry, whereas EZ is based on absolute stereochemistry, so of the whole molecule. Whereas cis and trans is just this region here. whereas E and Z is for the whole molecule. When you get more complex molecules, it makes more sense. If you're ever in doubt, use E and Z. Cis and trans is only for this region, whereas E and Z is the whole molecule. That's the big difference. Because technically speaking, on most occasions, you can get away with saying cis is Z, trans is E, but in some very complicated examples, it's not the case. But that's the way to look at it. And just finally as well, what is the difference between regiochemistry and stereochemistry? What's regiochemistry?
Oh, Regio is it like the constitutional?
So regiochemistry is like the end product. So it's the atomic arrangement of molecules and the manipulation. It's the chemical reactions end product. So it's telling you imine regiochemistry. So the end product of the imines is going to be the cis beta-lactams. So that's regiochemistry. It's like your end product. So you've done a reaction and you've got this. Whereas stereochemistry is the atomic arrangement of molecules and manipulation. So regiochemistry is just the end product of the chemical reaction. That's the best way to. So this is the reason why I'm saying this is because there's a lot of terms here that will confuse people, and it's best you know the meanings because you don't want to sit the GAMSAT and they start chucking these words at you, and you're like, what's the chiral center? What's stereo center? What's regiochemistry? What's an enantiomer? What is an enantiomer?
An enantiomer.
If I'm looking in the mirror,
Oh,
mirror
enantium.
images,
Oh,
but they're
yeah,
not superimposable.
That's the mirror.
But then you
Mirror
have the
image.
one that are not stereo centers.
Diastereomer.
Yeah, the ones that you can overlap on each other. What are they? Meso compounds, right? So you can fold them in on itself. So if you can fold a compound in on itself, or if you can superimpose it on each other, it's meso, which means it's not going to be chiral. But again, these are all the terms. Write them down. Have like a bank for chemistry so that you don't get confused because there's so many different types. I can guarantee you, in your GAMSAT, you sat recently, didn't you, Jeremy? Was there a stereochemistry question in the GAMSAT for section 3?
Yes.
I can guarantee you, I'm telling you, you're going to get a stereochemistry question in your section 3 GAMSAT. You're going to get it because ASA knows this is what tricks students and candidates. Know your stereochemistry off by heart because you know what you're going to expect in the GAMSAT. So know all these definitions, know examples, and know how you can mix and match and play around with these words. Cis, trans, E, Z, regiochemistry, stereochemistry, meso, diastomers, whatever, stereoisomers. You've got enantiomers. What else do we have? We've got, there's a whole bunch. Learn them, know them, so that when you do sit the exam, it's not new to you, and you don't have to waste time reading the excerpt or the stimulus to understand it. Now, any final comments, Adnan or Jeremy, before we close on this topic?
No, it's good. Thank you.
Sorry, Adnan. Yep, you have
Yeah,
a comment as well?
Hassan, because like I'm the newcomer.
Yes, all right.
This is like first one I get the answer, but the second, like, because it's have all the terms which I don't know. So is it like somewhere like I can study in the Premier program?
Yeah. If you're on, because Adnan, you're on a Premier program, you can go through the foundations.
Yeah.
But if you do watch the videos, the mastermind videos in the Premier course, we do have for chemistry. There is a video specifically on the chemistry, and you will find stereochemistry and stuff in there. As always, if you come stuck in the foundations as well, just call me, email me, and we can work some sort of plan to get you up to speed with the organic chemistry.
All right. Thank you.
No worries. So that concludes today's session. Do we have any questions about GAMSAT, Caspar, or anything like that you'd like to discuss? Jeremy, did you receive your Caspar result? Well, we don't have to discuss it obviously on camera, but did you receive your, because you said it in June, did you receive it yet or not yet?
It says it was like, completed, marks sent, but I don't think you actually know your score.
No, it just gives you a quartile score. It doesn't give you the score, it just gives you the quartile.
Oh, no, I had a look on the website and I couldn't find it.
Okay, so you probably wait, because I know May was released recently, but I think it takes about 3 to 4 weeks. And you did sit, was it June 8th?
Yeah.
So it might be ready maybe next week.
You might have to wait a little bit.
Because usually they give you a quartile score. So probably look out for that. And when you do get it, we can talk about it and discuss anyway, moving forward. Any other questions that you might have? Or we can just close.
Hassan, I want to know, I called Macquarie University and I asked them their cutoff of GAMSAT score like for last year, but they didn't give me, they said they don't know. Do you have any idea? For University of Wollongong and Macquarie University cutoff GAMSAT?
They don't release them. The only way we know what the cutoffs are, because a lot of candidates would just give their results, candidates who got entry, they just post it on like a online board and we'd guess. It's all guessing games, but I'd say to be competitive for interview, because it doesn't consider interview as well, because interview is usually 50%. So you'd have to do well in the interview. It doesn't matter what your GAMSAT score is, but you need a GAMSAT score to get the interview. So I'd say you need to be competitive, 65 plus GAMSAT score. These days, to guarantee interview, as of today, I'd say you probably need 70 plus to guarantee. But to give yourself a good chance, 65 plus GAMSAT score. From experience, if you want to guarantee an interview, you do need something above 70. Guarantee. When I mean guarantee, you're going to get an interview. If you're getting somewhere between 65, 70, you're in that purgatory where you just don't know. So try to aim for 65 plus. And just keep note, Wollongong University does have a portfolio. So it might be a bit more difficult to get in if you don't meet the requirements for the portfolio. But Notre Dame now doesn't have portfolio, which is awesome, which is just a Caspar exam. Something to think about for your applications for moving forward. Great. So thanks for coming along, guys. That was fun. GAMSAT is only 2 months and a bit away, not long to go. The free webinar series does continue until September, so don't worry, we've got another one coming up next month. You'll get more information. The recording will be posted online, and if you have any questions, don't fret. You can contact us, call us. If you're in the Gold Coast, come say hi. Our headquarters here in Benoa, it's near Surfers Paradise. It's winter, it's very cold now. A lot of you might want to come holiday in the Gold Coast. Otherwise, you can just call. We can have a chat. Have a fantastic weekend and enjoy your holidays and your time away. We'll talk soon. Bye now.
Thanks, Hassan.